to Mr. R. Ganeshan from LNT, C.A. Durgesh Kabra, the Vice Chairperson of the Corporate Laws and the Corporate Governance Committee of ICAI, also the Chairperson of the Committee for Members in Industry and Business, and formerly convener of the most important initiative of ICAI last year, which was the last term, which was the Center for Audit Quality. The Secretary of the Corporate Laws Committee, who does a great job, Sarika Singhal. To all the wonderful ladies and gentlemen and chartered accountants in the audience, here's a very, very hearty good afternoon to all of you. On behalf of the CLCGC of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, Durgesh Bhai and I take great pleasure in extending a very, very warm and a very hearty welcome to all of you to this edition, the third edition of MANTHAN. So MANTHAN is basically a series of webinars which are intended to extend beyond just corporate laws. We figured out that we are both the corporate laws and the corporate governance committee, and the corporate governance actually comes higher than the corporate laws. Laws are made to enhance governance. So we thought it fit and proper to extend our discussions and discourse beyond the usual aspects of law in terms of what should the boards do, what should the auditors do, what should we report, what is Caro, how is Caro changing, what are the things about Schedule 3 that are changing. We said we'll have to focus on a completely new narrative, a narrative that will speak about corporate governance, more about corporate governance, because that's what I think India Inc. is looking for today. And also the fact that the discussions in the boardrooms have kind of clearly steered away from the usual agendas, and you have larger governance themes that are getting discussed today. And another reason why we wanted to do these webinars is also because you've seen a plethora of regulatory orders, whether it's in the matters of chartered accountants, which the orders have been passed by NAFRA, or whether it's orders passed by SEBI, orders passed by other courts in the country, the Supreme Courts, the High Courts, the District Courts, everybody. There just seems to be a larger need for all of us to understand corporate governance better. And what are the building blocks of those corporate governance? And in this, our objective is not to stay very theoretical or academic to say, okay, this is what you do. You have whistleblower because Companies Act wants you to do a vigil mechanism. We'd like you to look at the spirit of this entire corporate governance. And manthan, as you know, is a Sanskrit word that means to shake or to stir. And why is that shaking or stirring needed? It's needed to bring out new ideas, new thoughts, new processes. Admittedly, it's a webinar that's hosted by the ICAI. So we largely figured out that a lot of chartered accountants would come in. But our vice chairman suggested that we don't make this a structured webinar. So we actually put it out into the social media for anyone who's interested to join. And I'm very happy to let you know that we've had peak participations of not less than 1,400, 1,500 people, if I'm not mistaken. So that's this introduction to Manthan. Manthan transcends beyond laws, speaks about governance. So I've been using the term corporate governance repeatedly in the last few minutes that I've been speaking. So what is corporate governance? Corporate governance is nothing but a set of systems and processes that recognizes the shareholders, however large or small the corporate is, as the true owners of the corporation, and the role of the board of directors to stay their fiduciary course in actually acting on behalf of the shareholders. So is corporate governance only about shareholder value maximization? Yes, that's half the story. The other half is also to ensure that the rest of the stakeholder ecosystem, whether it's the regulators or other parties associated, vendors, customers, all of them need to stay protected. And of course, this new emerging theme of ESG. So what are the fundamental principles of corporate governance? It's about corporate trusteeship. It's about the directors acting as trustees of the company or the corporation. It's about transparency. And this is something where I think India has actually progressed quite a bit in terms of the amount of reporting that we need to do, so much so one wonders, as the chartered accountant fraternity, whether we've moved away from financial reporting to management reporting. So it's about corporate trusteeship. It's about transparency, not only at a reporting level, but transparency in every act that's done in the company. How can your transactions be made, more transparent to a potential viewer, a stakeholder, or a regulator? It's about accountability. Why? Because the directors have been given a responsibility. There are powers and duties of the directors which are well enshrined in the Act. So it's as much about accountability. And these are the core elements. And of course, corporate trusteeship. That's a very large term. You act as a trustee of the societal resources, not just the shareholder resources. So it's in this context that we thought, today, what is the board's biggest challenge? The board's biggest challenge is to make a decision. And as Peter Drucker says, everybody must be profitable. Otherwise, you wouldn't run a business. So how do you manage these different interests of what we now call PPP, people, planet, and prosperity? How do you ensure that a board is able to take a decision that encompasses and embraces all these three elements that make up a corporate or even a much larger universe: people, process, and the planet. So in this regard, I think one of the most important changes that have happened in the last decade or so, is the pace of digitization. Now, in this, if you look at it, look at country level digitization before you come to entity level digitization. India is the first to have a stack named after the country, the India stack. And then you've heard about the JAN stack, the Jandan, the Aadhaar, and the mobile stack, all of which tries to make India actually go digital, and digital in a very powerful and in a single source of truth manner. And if you trickle that down to an entity level, entities are also steering more and more towards digital transformation and digital governance. Now, why are they doing it? Because I think that's the way to go. And secondly, I think today technology doesn't cost as much as it used to a decade back. There's so much resources that are available in the country. So I leave you with one last thought. Why is all that digital transformation necessary? It's necessary because today boards have a need, not just boards, even operating managements have a need to make data-driven decisions. How do I substantiate my decision to make it data-driven? Very simple, examples in our parlance could be your, transfer pricing. How do you actually substantiate those decisions that you make? So when you magnify this whole thing, then it comes to the context of how digital transformation can enable corporate governance, just as how digital transformation has enabled a country's governance. And one of my favorite examples is the COVID portal. When the rest of the world was struggling, and is still struggling, I think, to manage data on COVID, here was India that could sort of come up with something very, very quickly where you could trace. And today, if you go into the COVID portal, you will know as of yesterday how many people got vaccinated, how many people are still pending, etc. And then today, as you go to the airport, you can download your vaccination certificate at the click of a button. So if a large elephant like an Indian bureaucracy or the Indian government can actually move in such an agile and a nimble manner, how does corporate India have to move in this context of digital transformation? And it's in this context that we have an exceptionally good speaker. And I don't say that primarily because he'll speak well or something, but with some real hardcore practical experience of having implemented large digital transformation projects for one of India's largest corporates, which is L&T. So we have with us, and I request you to put your hands together for a virtual applause for Mr. R. Ganeshan, who's here with us today to speak about digital transformation in the context of corporate governance. And by our request, I told him, sir, can you just keep this simple so that we'll do the building blocks and simple case studies this time. And I'm going to take the liberty of telling him that we'll call him for a repeat webinars, maybe on the next aspects on how corporate India can march towards digital transformation and digital governance. With these words, I'd like to conclude my inaugural sort of speech, and I'd like to ask CA Durgesh Kabraji to introduce the speaker and to present his perspectives that he may have on the speech.
Thank you, Chairperson Sri Priyaji. And thanks to Mr. Ganeshan for accepting our request to be the speaker today for a very important subject with respect to the role of uh, digital transformation in corporate governance or digital transformation as an enabler to corporate governance. So I think, friends, I also welcome all of you to this third series of Manthan. You understood Manthan. It has been explained by our chairperson. You understood corporate governance, which is also being explained by our chairperson. And we are continuously doing a series of Manthan with respect to the corporate governance. And I'm sure, friends, we will, after completing all these discussions through Manthan, will come out with a fantastic publications on corporate governance too, which will be a corporate governance India-centric. And how? By following the Indian corporate governance in a right spirit, the world can perform much better. As the ICI is leading today from the front, how the Indian corporate starts leading in the world, and we becomes the leader in all respect, the way we were there earlier, as we were known earlier, Sone Ki Chidiya. And we were the country at that point of time having the highest in the initial stage before the Britishers came to our country. We were having the highest portion in the export domain in the world. So with this, I welcome you once again all, and it's my privilege to introduce a speaker of today, Mr. Ganeshan, who has consented to be here to guide us with respect to the Manthan series on the subject non-digital transformation as an enabler to corporate governance. Mr. Ganeshan is a mechanical engineer from Bangalore University with around 30 years of experience in corporate strategy, project management, development, and implementation of the same. And also, he has got involved into the business strategy and construction of oil and gas, petrochemical, and refinery industries too. At the L&T Construction, Mr. Ganeshan's portfolio includes facilitating corporate strategy, implementations, heading the supply chain, digital, IT, and analytics organization, spearheading digital initiative and business analysis, special initiative like business process reengineering, sponsors for L&T EduTech business. And before joining to the Larsen and Toubro, he was with Cairn India Limited for more than 15 years, where he held various senior positions, which included director, integrated offshore business, and members of the executive committee. And I am sure, friends, with such a vast experience and being part of the digital transformation into such a big group, which helped the corporate governance, and today the company is known for one of the best corporate governance. I'm sure the insight which is going to be shared by him with respect to the digital transformation as an enabler to the corporate governance will help all of us, and we would definitely learn a lot of things today. And the person who are involved in the corporate governance of their enterprises, wherever they are working, would be able to do justice in their role at the various enterprises. With this, I welcome you again, and I request all the members to please put your hands together virtually for Mr. Ganeshan and welcoming him. Thank you all. And I request the chairperson again to take it forward.
Thank you very much, Durgesh Bhai, and very nice having you here. And he's currently at Udaipur on another important engagement, but he sort of found the time to be here. And this program, for the benefit of everybody, is, I guess, getting recorded. So it's going to be sort of posted on our platforms as well. So thank you very much. And it's over to Ganeshan sir for his presentation. And I must tell you, sir, it looks very nice.
Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, visible.
You're audible.
And it is visible and you are clearly audible.
Good.
You could move to slideshow,
Thank you very
sir.
much.
You can move to slideshow, please.
You can convert this into slideshow.
It's on slideshow now.
It's not slideshow. You have to go on the top.
Can you just go on the slideshow?
It is written over there, slideshow. Just click that button. So I did. I think it will happen.
One minute.
On the top of, if you go, there are file, home, insert, design.
Sir, it comes after animations.
After on the top.
No. That I have done.
Yeah. He's aware of it.
It is not happening. Okay.
1 minute. Let me see. 1 minute.
Yeah.
This one, right?
And then
no, I think he's got a device issue. But that's okay, sir.
No. 1 minute. Yeah.
Maybe you should go and look at the view, sir. I think there's some views in this. So,
it was moving, ma'am, when sir checked.
No. It is not a moving issue. It's something else. Yes, sir.
Then you need to present.
Not a problem, sir. If the slides are moving, you can continue on this. It's okay.
No, just 2 minutes.
Yep.
yes, done.
Now it's okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
Fine. Perfectly okay.
Yeah, good afternoon. It's great privilege on my part to join this most intelligent minds of India, and I'll try to give my perspective from the industry. May not directly relate or connect from the financial perspective, but I will try my attempt, to relate it to where you belong to. Going back to what is it moving?
Yes, sir. It is.
Yeah.
Very slow.
Yeah, connecting with what Ms. Priya said, eventually today, the board, the stakeholders of the organization are looking at seamless, transparent, real-time data as the starting point to take some very important business decision and run the organization in the most effective way. But getting there has been always a challenge. Some organizations have progressed pretty well. Some organizations are in the early days of the progress, but India is moving towards this. And if I put it in the context, in this pyramid, fundamental transformation, as I see it, is the most important piece. The rest of it is a building block. As you start your digital journey towards running the business efficiently, the manual processes, what people have been doing, were left to the individuals in their own systems, in their book of records. So the very first step is about digitizing any process and every process, what the organization is going through that. Whether it is manufacturing, whether it is automobile or a service industry, many of the aspects are left to individuals, and some of the things don't culminate into a proper system of records as they go into management decisions. Today, with the technology, the fundamental digitalization started way back in 80s with ERP systems, and multiple mutated forms and evolved forms of ERPs got developed. And today we are talking about going to the next stage of using IoTs and data science on top of it to get the system of record in a very consistent way and then move forward. Once you are done with that, the second piece of the transformation, which has happened over last probably 15, 20 years, is about automation. We heard about Industry 1.0 to 4.0, which was largely based out of automobile and manufacturing, where they moved from manual work to digital robotics, and then moving on to the next phase of using mechatronics and things like that. But from the routine business perspective, the financial management, the process automation was never a piece of consideration probably 2 decades back. Today, we have moved. The corporates have moved. Many of the smaller to bigger organizations are focusing on automating processes so that the fundamental data collections through the ERP, you are able to put some connectors on top of it through automation, and then go to the next stage of interface of the technology, which is a starting phase of how digital can help the organization to move forward. I just give some examples like robotic process automation. Just to put it in context, in our organization about 5 years back, we started a piece of robotic process automation to automate a 3-way match of bill processing in the shared services. Very simple use case, but that is possible once you have the fundamental record digitized and all the data points which are available or required to do a match is available in the digital system. Then you are applying a technology on top of it. And today, people are not stopping with the fundamentals of maturity of ERPs or tallies of the world, but how do you integrate data coming from 3 or 4 different sources to infer a result in a transparent way to see whether it is efficient or inefficient, whether the data is trusted or not trusted. That is where this operational transformation of using the IoT and data integration is pivoting the journey of the corporates. I'll give an example. If you take about a car moving, there are meters in the car which talks about how much of fuel is left in the car or how much of a fuel is filled in the car. How many kilometers you run, and you know what is the journey, whether the fuel is enough or not. Today, we are hearing about connected cars where there's an additional sensor which is connected to the internet and it comes into the mobility app to say, so much of fuel is in your system, and then it can run so much, right? So this integration is to calibrate the fundamental thing of how much of a fuel is there and how much you can travel. So we can go on with this example, but it is becoming extremely important. Data, fact of the matter, which was manually done, then it got digitalized. That was not enough. Then you go into calibrating that with multiple data points by using technology like sensors and IoTs and things like that. Once we are able to put all the synthesis together, seamless, multi-calibrated, multi-point calibrated data comes into a platform, then any decision and every decision becomes truthful and straightforward, right? So that is where everyone is moving. You're hearing multiple technologies, multiple jargons of platforms and things like that. But in a simple way, it is about the core of the business getting transformed from manual processes to a data-driven organization. And once the data comes, you don't need any further work to be done, because today you have got enough of tools and the minds to work together. So the exception-based management decision-making becomes important. Organization dance with multiple pivotal aspects to deal with. Shri Priya mentioned about ESG. We have stakeholder governance, SEBI regulations. Whatever you are talking about it, all that has got some fundamental pivotal data to be collected from the organization. And once the transparent information is available onto the platform, today you can put the tool together and get the visualization in a mobility. And the great minds and the people with the wisdom can take the call. In the previous era, the qualitative decisions were a problem because your data, which may be given as a notebook or a PDF or an Excel or a handwritten note, and once they calibrate the same data, there were inconsistencies. Today, slowly and steadily, this is moving on. And as a data science, the leader, what we look at is the quality of the data through all these processes as it comes to the top of the pyramid. And after that, we close our eyes. because after that, the automation and the platforms will take that. So this is going to be pivotal, and it needs 3 or 4 elements to be, taken care of. Number one, when you get the data transparently, there needs to be a cultural orientation of the organization to accept that. Then it's going to throw you the facts and figures. It's like a blood report of an individual. You go through the test, whatever is the sugar level and cholesterol level is going to come out. You don't have a choice. That's the fact of the matter. So the cultural piece of how people look at it and the leadership drive to make sure that the organization transforms through that becomes a pivotal piece. The second aspect is the people who need to enable that connectors at different aspects of the business are ready to transparently do that and put it into this pyramid and then allow that data to come up. So point number 2. The third one is, what are the most important KPI at any given point of time for an corporate to focus by 80-20 rule, which leaves the credibility of the organization, the growth of the organization, and the compliance of the organization becomes pivotal. So in this aspect, when I relate it to the financial aspects, the P&L review, the MIS, Management Information Systems, in terms of the compliance today with the GST coming in, the tax compliance, there are 4 or 5 of these pivotal areas, which needs a lot of work to be done by different groups of people on the ground. And once you have established the process, see once or twice the checkpoints of consistency. After that, even the audit can be automated. That is the way I look at it. Are we there as the country and organization? Not there yet, but country is moving towards that. The role of the chartered accountants and the fraternity is to look at how do you aid, simplify the process, and then leave it to the automation, and then add value on the intellectual piece beyond that to improve the business elements. That is where the journey is going. Just to do, though that may not be totally relevant to the participants in toto, but I would like to define this as a boundary of what the digital can do in an organization. If you take L&T, I call it as the digital wheel. We hear multiple jargons: cloud computing, cybersecurity, robotics, mobility, advanced analytics, 3D printing. All of that are the technologies or the enablers which are required. And then you need to internalize this with respect to a purpose of that particular organization. L&T being an engineering organization with deep-rooted work on detail engineering, manufacturing, executing infrastructure, and the compliance of the entire cycle. Whatever relevant to us, we have put the framework under this. On the right, you'll see Statue of Unity. This is world tallest tower, 182 meters, built in Gujarat. And if you see that structure of Sardar Patel, this is all bronze cladding. Roughly about 1,500 pieces of the bronze of different compositions have been assembled together into a statue. In this particular piece, right from concept of engineering that and preparing the mold for the bronze cladding, on to bringing it to the location and erect it in sequence, the entire chain has been controlled through the digital technology. I'll give you one example. Every bronze cladding which was, kind of extruded in the shop, it was done in China. There were, RFID tags which were put in the bronze panel so that when it was shipped out, it was completely monitored that the vessel which is bringing in, where it is, when it is reaching the port. And after it reached Gujarat, there was a kind of a coding in every cladding to say what should be the sequence of erection so that you don't have a confusion of the head and toe and things like that. And the entire erection sequence was controlled through digital. And once it was commissioned, today, being bronze and at a height of 182 meters, there will be a weathering issue on the bronze, and the mutation of the bronze will happen in a particular way. So the metallurgy transformation is being studied with the sensors which are fitted onto the statue, which is being monitored on the ground on a regular basis, and the maintenance work is ongoing. The second example on the bottom is the high-speed bullet train, first time in the country, being built in between Mumbai and Ahmedabad. The entire stretch of about 300 kilometers plus. As for the first time, multiple of the civil engineering marvel of considerations for the high-speed train is being done in India. Most of the equipments which are required to build that are being built in India for the first time and being deployed to execute that particular project. It's a proud moment for us as Indians. Atmanirbhar, the mission of the Prime Minister, this is a direct example of how it goes about it. Though you see the picture of some infrastructure being built, every aspect of this construction is using digital technology. I give an example. To run this train, the bridge which is constructed, we call it as a viaduct. The viaduct is the segment which is on the top, over which the rail is laid, and then the train runs on the top of it. When the concrete structures are being precasted, we need to produce the concrete, transport the concrete, pour the concrete, and then cure the concrete and lift that segment and then go and place it on the top and then keep sequencing it for 300 kilometers. The entire raw material which is coming into the shop, like sand, aggregate, cement, steel, all of that, with the material tracker and the process of concrete, mixing, the batching plant, productivity and how much it is producing, how much of energy is being consumed. The transportation, which we call it as a transit mixture, the lead, how much it is traveling and how much it is pouring with the intrusive sensors are digitally tracked to see what is the efficiency of the chain, how much of the material is being consumed, and at what speed you are executing it. Is it as per the plan? Is it okay, not okay? Is it optimal, not optimal? All that is a digital overlay. But the good news is, it's from the finance perspective, it also creates a system of record as a dual piece of data, in addition to a routine procure-to-pay process which gets captured in the year. So at some point of time, when you want to reconcile either to make the payment for the material or to pay your contractors for the work, what they have done, you have a two-way or three-way match of a data which comes from different sources for the same activity which is done. And then you are able to go ahead. And because the data is collected, you can also do the analysis of what more can be done and get some lead indicators to make it better for the next piece of the work which we do. I try to put this together for this forum. I was just thinking, as Ms. Sripriya said, I wanted to keep it for the fundamentals of an operation piece of an organization where the financial governance comes into the picture. And probably in the upcoming forums, whenever we meet, we can go into other pieces. But today I'm going to talk about what you are quite familiar with and how digital is playing on top of it as a governance tool. Any organization, they do the process, plan the work, work the plan, walk the talk through the standard operating procedures. And entire governance around the contracting life cycle. Every company has got their own stakeholders, their service providers, their suppliers. The entire chain of supply chain needs to have the governance. And at the end of the day, for the money invested, the stock inventory management, the middle management, how they go about it, and of course the accounting piece of it, the tax compliance, and how do you onboard and manage vendors and the partners who are working with you, and of course the performance management, which is the interest of the leadership and the management, and how do you manage the payment cycle, cash flow. So this is normal areas of business which is quite familiar to you. But I will just flavor this with what is happening with the digital today. It's not just restricted to L&T. The areas which I will talk about it, some of that are done, some of that are vision of being done, some of that or something for the future. But we will relate it like what is the avenue or opportunity for us to do digital overlay in these areas on fundamental operation. If I take the digital transformation core, these are the jargons which are pretty well known to all of you. These are all placeholders. These are all technology and enablers. However, you need to internalize this to a purpose of that particular business and the organization. So wherein the domain and the expertise of the organization has to get dovetailed with the enablers of all these digital tools which are available with you, and then see where do you get the real benefit and match that and move towards that. I'll start with some examples. Every organization is as good as the ecosystem. So ecosystem is not just your staff and your territory. It is about the ecosystem of your clients, ecosystem of your vendors and the partners, ecosystem of supporting social ecosystem around you. And one of the main journey in this is the partners who work with you. In the past, generally when you are talking about it, the people will give you some eligibility documents, talk about their financial capability, they talk about what they have done in the past. They come and say that I belong to this particular area, so I'll be the better guy to do the job. They'll try to flex their muscle of what they are and why you should work with them, things like that. And when you go through the trail of the journey, right from onboarding a service provider, doing the job, and at the end of the day, when you reflect what has happened, probably you will see some gaps in terms of the basic performance, the basic quality, as well as sometimes some issues which are sensitive in nature from the compliance perspective, right? Today, with digital and the kind of e-governance where Government of India has already moved, some of the flavors which are getting added to the core process, what is making the difference is exhibited here. When I get a partner, today we run something called as a partner portal, which is a single source gateway for any partner portal, any partners in the market to deal with the company. Many companies use this in some or other form, wherein if, let's say I'm a service provider, I can supply something to this company. I just get a login and then come in. I put my credentials into it and then exhibit my capacity and capability. Then there is a workflow which happens in the company to review the process of their financial capability, technical capability. All that are created as a workflow in the system. And then you analyze and say, okay, based on the credentials submitted, this guy is good to deal with. So you want to empanel them. But that's a routine process. Either you do that manually, but today it is automated. But what really happens on top of it, before you qualify that vendor, is that the API today we are able to run with the government portal to validate whether this guy is a registered vendor. Does he have a GST? There is no conflict with respect to registration in the government portal, that this guy is good to deal with. Point number one. Two, we run a web crawling techniques. If it is a listed company, it is very easy. If it is an unlisted company, some more work has to be done, wherein you will be able to take open web metadata of that particular partners, most of the partners, and see what is the sentiment of them in the market, more from the compliance perspective. If he is having some NCLT issue, or he has got some financial mismanagements and things like that, you are able to collect that information using the digital technology. And of course, the past performance based on the credentials which he has furnished, but also the web data in terms of the client credentials and XYZ in some or other forms on the social sites which are available. Couple of them are, brought into the platform to study it together. and finally decide whether he is a partner to work with. So that is where the compliance of the fundamental process of contract starts, and this is implemented. And in our organization, we have more than 200,000 partners. So they're going through this process in terms of compliance of how we do it, and digital plays a vital role. Some of the sequential steps which happens in terms of how they do the job. This is exactly what I explained in terms of testing their credentials, sentiment, things like that. And then the validation of what they do. And on the top, you can see, because of multiple data points coming in, the sentiment score, reliability score, confidence, the hygiene of the fundamental compliance, and the overall score, whether it is green, amber, or red, is a basis on which you take the call. And once you do that, the empaneled vendor becomes a vendor for the organization, not at the individual units or things like that. If they are not coming through this portal and getting registered and empaneled, nobody can use them in the system because the master will block them. So that is where the play is. And eventually you get the list, the master, which is available for the entire organization to see that. So from the compliance perspective, if somebody is asking how the vendors are qualified, what is the consistency process, this becomes the exhibit. And then consistency or any observations on this can be easily found out for improvement for the future. The second aspect, which is very important with the digital play, some of them have done this in the basic digitalization, but with the technology, we are able to go to the next level, wherein the delegation of the authority, if it is undefined in an organization, it becomes a huge compliance issue. Who has to do what? Who has the authority to do it? And you just keep maneuvering with this, it's not the great play to go. But with the basic ERP and with the digital visibility of a data available to the management, consistently, if an organization is able to test the delegation of authority and consistent application and adoption of that for every transaction or every decision which is taken in the organization, today it's becoming very useful. This can be qualified under digitization, but the digital transformation helps us in the data analytics. What happens is, once you put a particular delegation of authority and then go about it, and after some time the sample size grows up, that you have done so much of transactions, so many crores of transactions, and approval cycle has taken a turnaround time of so much, the efficiency of the transactions or the quality of the decisions have been so good, bad, ugly, then you are able to put algorithms on top of it to test whether your delegation of authority from the business perspective and the compliance is working well or not. So it becomes an iterative, continual improvement process in terms of process re-engineering or delegation re-engineering to see that at any point of time you are able to reach the optimal level and see how you go about it. Data science also help in terms of who's doing more efficient job, which division, which set of people are doing it, where normally the bottlenecks are happening, and how we can remove it, and then go about it. So when you are seeing the compliance, it's just a matter of validating whether consistently for 100% of the transaction, whether the DOA has been followed. Is there any exception or a violation of this particular process? And if it is not, it's compliant. So this improves the hygiene at a very fundamental level as far as the organization is concerned. When we talk about once the partner is on board, a delegation of the authority is done. Today, we have request for a service, the request for a quotation, the entire bidding cycle, the negotiation, the comparison, and placing the order. There is nothing manual about it. If it is not manual, it creates a 100% system of record in the system. And once you have a system of record, it's easy to see the trail and see whether it is okay or not. What has happened in the, what has happened before, or what is happening in most of the organization, but most of them are moving towards this, is that they will do some e-tendering process. After that, everything will be manual. Which means if a very important tender term has been kind of validated or revised post receipt of the proposal, all that is handled manually. So the system of record versus what is awarded as a contract, you see an inconsistency. It may lead to a legal arbitration issues and things like that. So the first step is to make sure that the system of record for the entire cycle of request to order is brought into the system without any deviation. But of course, while they are doing it, they will have certain issues to deal with. For example, they have got a negotiation process where they say, instead of this material, I'll give you an alternate. Probably the buyer might have spoken over phone and said, I've done it, it's okay, sir, you go ahead, and accordingly I'm releasing the purchase order. But the system of record will say the original material of construction, whereas there's a sideline conversation which has happened, which is not recorded. So when the job gets executed, you don't have a system of record to go back, and it becomes a tussle, and then it becomes an issue at the legal level. So today, organizations are moving towards even recording events. Even WhatsApp, for example, is deemed as a system of record as long as you use it as an official WhatsApp, link it back into the workflow so that none of this data is missed out in the trail. So that's something which is pretty evidently improving the quality of the work. Those who are able to do this, even in the absence of the people who have done it, as a system is established in place, anybody who picks it up and runs the trail is able to go when service provider is chosen in any organization, submission, the deliberation is about L1 versus V1, value-based number one, or a cost-based L1. If there are 4 partners, is there any difference and things like that between the people? That kind of stuff happens. Once you have a system of record, every data punched transparently by the bidders is brought into the framework and it is recorded. So based on the techno-commercial records, the decision which is taken based on the data exhibit is recorded in the form of a purchase order, work order, and things like that. It becomes absolutely clean and transparent. Tomorrow, if there is any deviation, any conflicts, you are able to go back. So partner onboarding, doing the process of tendering and inquiry and discovery through the platform, and getting the commercials, punched into the thing, and then go and place the order. In the procure to pay process, procure to commitment is taken care as the first stage. I'll come back on the next piece of the trail when you do a procure to pay process. In the meantime, today, a lot of this engagement of workforce across the country in different forms, whether it's a government projects, even in MNREGA scheme, or contracts where the service providers promise so much of mobilization of the people on one side. The other side is about the digital payment to the workman, the basic IR compliance, and the safety of the workman and their movements to make sure that everything goes properly, and creating a proper system of record for presence of a person at a particular geofenced lat long. All are becoming a complex, very important story. For example, if government is doing a road project and some group of people are deployed in a linear length of 500 meters of road construction, and some untoward incident happens at that particular location, in that who was present, who was not present, right? It becomes a big challenge. So today the digital is becoming a tool, because unlike in factory where people can come and punch the attendance, today you are using the technology. Any linear sites which are not controlled terminal kind of places, the industry is using the facial recognition as the tool. And facial recognition with the deep learning and computer vision analytics, you are able to profile the person and then link that with their Aadhaar, their bank account, all of that as a single pivotal thing, that one ID for the person, their trade, what they belong to, what the skill they have got. Everything is brought into one platform, so that you are able to do a deeper compliance on where the person was there, what he was doing, thereby what is the consideration of his salaries or weekly payment or monthly payment, and based on that system of record and approval, how that payment has been made into his bank, which is the other linked personal account which he has created under the government scheme. So all this comes up, and then you are able to put the technology on top of it by putting bot kind of tools to steady a consistency of compliance and non-compliance. It starts with, if there are 120 people at a particular location, 100 has got a consistent system of record, 20 people have not even taken the FR, or some inconsistency in the system of records, onwards to a level where you talk about the productivity, the ecosystem of work. You are able to do a data science on top of it to say, if I deploy X number of people, they'll be able to do a quantum, that particular unit of work in so many days. So that tomorrow, if I want to do twice the productivity, what kind of combination of men and resources are to be put there? And what kind of people are better at it? The trade-wise, district they belong to, state they belong to, because the different people have got different skills, and what is the right kind of going about it. The next one is, once you have the record, not these people get continual employment in the country. Some, not everybody is privileged to do that. Sometimes they come into metros, they do the job, go back to their villages for Holi, Diwali and all that. So today, we are able to use Uberization kind of a concept. Because the database is properly created, you are able to send alert messages to these people saying that you have a job opportunity in this particular place for so many months or weeks or a year. If you are interested, give a missed call or give a phone call, come back to that particular one. So this becomes an integrated system. So from the traditional IR compliance, moving towards intelligence of the workman deployed, the entire chain is now today connected with digital technology. And it is just a tip of the iceberg today, whatever I have explained. But the work of taking it to the next stage is going to become very, very vital. And all the good and bad claims of some of the systems saying that, oh, we have given work to everybody and everybody had out of 360 days, at least 120 days of work and things like that. All that will become a compliance of proper validation data driven. Exactly, you will be able to say where he was and what he was doing, whether he was doing or not doing. All this will become a good compliance and governance framework for the country in the days to come. So that linking to the insurance claims of any issues of disablements and safety issues which have happened to a proper, consistent, transparent payments to the people who are doing the job, fair, pay, all that, you will be able to do that through this particular platform. Today, the organizations have started working on it, and we are moving ahead. If we take L&T's parlance, we engage about 250 to 300,000 people, workmen, of different trades at different locations across the country at any given point of time. And these people are little cyclic, so they go for holidays and things like that. So in a year, we see at least 1 million people moves, there's a rotation of 1 million people at our locations. So you will not be able to do that with the manual thing and full compliance. Today, these systems are being used as enablers towards that journey. This is just to say all the system of records, how we are collecting validation. See, for example, if a guy with an Aadhaar and with a particular identity and facial recognition comes to one location where he has started working, and somebody duplicates his record, or same guy goes to another location to find a job within the company, because it is an integrated database today, it will reject him and say that it's a non-compliant thing. So they also become conscious and go about it. The ghost workers, a ghost workman coming in is becoming more and more impossible, right? Because of the use of technology. From the fundamental process aspects of finance, the depreciation, amortization is one subject I think all of you deal with regularly. Based on the rule, the ground rule and the SOP of the organization, and as per the protocols of the government in terms of benefits which you can take for different classes of the equipments and things like that, there is a good amount of automation which is being used in the industry today. What it does is that just not the system of record. Once you do this, you are able to see what is the residual life of the asset, what is the normal life of the asset, and what is the replacement cycle. All that comes as an lead indicators for advanced planning in terms of capex planning and mobilization. And also some of the assets which depreciates as per the logic. However, the performance side, it depreciates much faster, that it is not reaching the full life, but it fails, that you need to replace. Second example. Third one, you do the depreciation, it comes to 1 rupee kind of a value. After that, what is the extended life it is able to do? So what should be the strategy on redeployment of the capital? And the life and the usage of this is all intersecting today with the multiple data coming in. And then you are able to play much more than just a system of record for depreciation calculation. So that is something today industry has started using. In terms of GST, the left-hand side, you will all know about it. The 2B is the starting point for you to take the input tax. But this IRIS API, some of the companies are able to do. Some companies are still struggling. That's most vital thing. And there is a debate between 2A and 2B. How much of that 14 days of lag? Is there any inconsistency? How do you mitigate it? If you're gone by 2A and paid the service provider, is there enough of cushion in the future work to adjust based on the 2B validation if there is any change? But the starting point is seamless integration of 2B through API as a dump into your system to validate before you make the payment to the vendor or a service provider. That part is clear. The right-hand side part of it is your invoice to your client, where you do the GSTR1. You, of course, go to the portal to generate the e-invoice. But companies who have got a ERP system of creating a client invoice systems, for example, client invoice module, you do the entire working there, but you are able to create the API so that all the details need not be punched again back in government portal, seamlessly this is punched automatically there through the API, and you are able to extract a e-invoice. So large organizations where there is a turnover of 1,500, 2,000 invoices a month, it's quite impossible to have a consistent stuff through manual entry. So this is moving, this is being done by a lot of people today. And you'll also avoid inconsistency between internal certifications, internal calculations, and the punched invoice in the government portal. Any system of record inconsistency between input tax and all this. So you avoid number of punch. And how do you go about it is a thing which is happening on the right hand side. Third aspect is that we are able to, based on this, one step which is not really mature, but the industry is moving towards that, which you may be aware, is to automate based on these inputs. How do you create a state-wise return automatically rather than going and punching? Because again, the volume of data and to avoid the inconsistency. So this is the fundamental framework where APIs and call and some system of record automations help. But what is going to be the real opportunity beyond this in the digital is that if an organization is dealing with 100,000 of service providers who are giving you the input tax credit and the invoices, and you need to validate with your output, right? You need to use the technology on top of it. You need to put intelligent automation. The intelligent automation will automatically do the pattern analysis of the data and say that out of 100,000 partners who are working with you, 98,000 partners are consistent, quarterly filing, everything is clear, and you are able to invoice. There are no corrections which were done by him because of which you suffered a correction to your return. All that. And who are the partners whom you should not work with because it may lead to your credibility issue in the days to come, or it will create a problem for you to worry about it and do a lot of work, right? All that is the piece of the big portion of the intelligence of digital is going to happen once all this gets stabilized. 3-4 way match and getting the intelligence so that probably we can imagine a day where your board is meeting to talk about the performance of the organization, where a shop floor engineer or a manager is able to go and tell him, sir, I have got the best of the vendors who are working with me, so I don't have to worry about it on the fundamentals of inputs into my business, right? Or other way around, sir, you can ask me to perform well, but my problem is with all of this, and I'm spending trivial time on fundamentals of documentations and things like that, and I'm worried about it. The third element, maybe it has settled down, the inverted tax thing pyramid, which has happened in few states, is for good, but sometimes the credit which is available, you are not able to fund it. So some intelligence of predictive analytics which can be done and give you a prescription while you are planning the job for the future and things like that is another set of intelligence which will pan out of this intelligent automation in the days to come. Right now, most of the organizations are settling in and stabilizing this, the basic, talking between government portal and their subcontractors portals and things like that. Some amount of automation has happened, some more to go. And here, you see the green highlighted area. Automatically, organizations are able to get saying that consistently this guy is doing a good job, so he's green. It's actually green, but maybe in the screen you will see it as some dull color, that one which is shaded. So if that is red, no go. This partner you cannot deal with for the future. So that basic hygiene intelligence have started coming in the organization. There's always a debate, which is also an audit thing, which probably all of you might have gone through even in your fundamental study in terms of what is the right inventory, economic order quantities, how the inventory is reconciled and things like that. Today, algorithms are being written in terms of auto reorder quantity, stock reorder, in a routine repeated business with the consumables and commodities which go as a regular inputs into it, very pattern kind like automobile, where all the components are almost standard coming in and feeding into the assembly. So the manual superimpose of override of putting their own inventory thing of going for order and things like that are being avoided. And it is becoming a checks and balance on the compliance aspect in many organizations in terms of how much of your reorder of the basic commodities are auto reorder, rather than the manual work. This is some piece which is today quite well used in many of the industries. So it becomes a very easy audit point as well. The other one is many organizations are today moving towards, thanks to things like Flipkarts, Amazons, and all of that. Basic commodity which are repeatedly purchased by the company by different units of the verticals of the organization. You need to move towards the frame agreement, because then the benefit of aggregation of the volume and better negotiation to get a better price, better delivery, better whatever terms, you are able to do it. But after doing that frame agreement and you run a paperwork of saying, here is the, master service agreement or the rate card, all of you use this as a guiding principle, create your manual purchase orders and things like that. Again, you will see some inconsistencies and it becomes a record issue. So organizations are moving towards exactly like Amazon's auto carting. For example, I want to buy a tin of a particular paint of a particular quality, particular quantity, 20-liter can of something. You put that, every company is going through HSN and the commodity taxonomy, so that you put it into your ERP system to ask for that material. As soon as you put it, the system will say, this is already a master service agreement with some vendors in the company. So it will go take you to the carting site. You press a button with the quantity, whatever you want. It goes out as an e-purchase order to the vendor. So at any given point of time, two things happen. Number one, fast automated process. Second thing is that people don't discover that price outside the system, that I need to parallelly, it is already done and you have to comply with it. So audit compliance will be limited to how many frame agreements or commodity you have got. Show me some system of record that it is consistently followed in the organization. So digital is playing into it. These ones are not part of ERP. This is all using the modern technologies of e-commerce, platform kind of insights, and connecting this as an icing on top of ERP system, so that you use the modern digital technologies and the core ERP with the validation of fundamental checks and balances of finance, and then go through the procure to pay process. This is one beautiful example of how digital works today. This is specific to L&T example. We do procurement of roughly 200,000 kiloliters of diesel. We may be one of the largest consumer of diesel in this country after maybe railways or some government agency. Roughly about 2,000 crores in the current price. So we buy this thing, two variables. Number one, I buy it from IOCL, BPCL, HPCL, all the PSUs on one side. On the other side, I've got discrete 700, 800 locations where work is happening, right from Leh, Ladakh to Kanyakumari, every part of the country. This is the framework. And at some locations, I may need a lot of fuel. Some locations, I need little fuel based on the need of the type of the project and all that. So at some sites where it is a smaller requirement, you go to the petrol pump and buy that in a barrel or something, keep it in the tractor and bring it. Where you have a bigger requirement, directly from the refinery, IOCL or BPCL will send the bulk tankers and unload that material at our location. On a given day, any given day, we do about 1,200 to 1,300 transactions because it's discrete locations and things like that. Now, how do I get the compliance on top of it? So we sketched it. We have put one of the largest B2B integration in the country between this PSUs and L&T system, wherein, for example, I belong to a site where I need a material, some diesel, small quantity. So I put the request in my internal system, and the project manager will say, okay, is this provision budget is available? Its budget is, let's say, budget has got 1 lakh liters. Today I want to buy 1,000 liters. So 1 lakh liter, 1,000 will be deducted. Remaining will stay as a future budget. This 1,000 will be loaded onto the fleet card, which is given by the PSUs to us. And once the fleet card is loaded, the person goes with the truck or the tractor and things like that, go to the petrol pump, swipe that card, the fuel is received and they come back. Like this, it happens at different locations in the country. There's an auto aggregation of all that fleet card comes into a platform, and then auto invoice is created by PSU and then brought into the platform, and based on the quantity and then the validation which has happened with our fleet card and in our internal system, it's validated. We create one virtual invoice purchase order for that, and the payment is made like an escrow. It is a continuous process. Today, because of this, the manual effort, inconsistency which will happen through the manual effort, and the kind of turnaround time, sharpness of a data which is available 100% in the platform, for you to do the analysis of what should have been a normal consumption versus what is consumed, whether the run rate is okay or there is any leakage in the system. The entire fundamental process compliance to productivity analysis to forensic is built on top of this, because the fundamental ecosystem of digital layer is created. This is one of the most important things. Similarly, we have done that for steel with Tata Steel, SAIL, because our steel consumption is huge. We do the same thing with the steel companies. So this is about how do you bring scope of any erosion or leakage or any inefficiencies into a converged thing and put up a backend system which is binary 0, 1. It's not a choice of the people. It's about putting right system, fully sustainable, test it and deploy it, institutionalize it, and then worry about data collection and compliance. So this is where these kind of things are moving. Concord, I explained it. The auto purchase orders for commodities. You may be wondering what is the geo data bank or a GAS, how it is useful for the financial compliance. Today, I'll give you one example with this. If, let's say you are working in Madhya Pradesh and you have a facility where you have to construct something, it's linear 100 kilometers, 200 kilometers of linear walk. Linear walk. And because it's a linear walk, there will be a lot of time motion and the costs associated with that. How much of a movement and how much of this and how much of that and things like that. So today, for example, if my transit mixture is taking a concrete from a concrete batching plant to the location, transit mixture has got a geo tracker and it moves from point A to point B. And then it comes back. So you know the lead, you know exactly the lead, you know exactly what is happening. And then when you reconcile the compliance aspect of how much the fuel has been spent, how much of the rental has to be paid for that, how much is the turnaround time, everything is mapped to the point, which means every work which L&T does will be connected with the lat long in the map, and the lead for different inputs and outputs you are able to do, and also do the optimization of routes and things like that. And tomorrow system of record for that digitally available. And then you can analyze to see what's going well, what's not going well, what needs to be done. This is a very transactional example, but there are very, very deep GIS examples. Probably we will talk about it in some other forum. Bank guarantee is one of the most important piece because it kills your working capital, your credit limits with the bankers, things like that. So one thing is to bring all the bank guarantee informations into one portal. So before even bank guarantee is done, you have got the optical tools, OCR, NLP techniques to see whether the bank guarantee terms and conditions and the text of that is contractually right. So you first create the hygiene around how the bank guarantee is created, whether bank guarantee is perfect, and the dates and the values and all that are mentioned and maintained properly using NLP is being verified. After that, you have to punch all this electronically to have a data aggregation to say at the company level, how much of a bank guarantee, what is coming for extension, what is going for expiry, all that triggers. You are able to today trigger mails to concerned stakeholders to see that this bank guarantee for this particular client or whatever it is expiring or coming for renewal. Kindly look at it and go about it with at least 30 days of time is given to them as a precursor. But this manually is impossible. But previously there were days where it was typed as electronic bank guarantees, but it was not brought as a system of record digitally. So the first step was to bring it in, consistency of the banking records, bank guarantee records. Third one is putting data intelligence on top of it and creating a lead indicators to stakeholders is something which is happening with the BG. Of course, MAS, as Ms. Sripriya said, MAS is no longer an MAS for trivial and transactional matters. It's an MAE today with technology. Any MAS is a performance indicator of the organization or a business. So it's a huge scope. If you synthesize the data, you have consistency of system of record and synthesize the data, any amount of visuals on the fly, you are able to create lead indicators for management to take decisions. I'll give one example of what is this. It's a deep subject. We need to have IDOT and metadata integration as a separate workshop. See, for example, today I have let's say a diesel generator, right, of a particular capacity. It consumes so much of fuel, diesel. It produces so much of power, right? And it does the job. And it is located at a particular place. Now, basically, the amount of diesel poured, somebody will keep a record, handwritten record in the past. Then they'll see the energy meter in the diesel generator, say so much of kilowatt of power has been produced on a day or cumulative, whatever. Today, we have an opportunity for a tri-directional input into it. All the three I will relate, IT, OT, meta. IT is a log. Today, many companies have a log system for anything which is being used. Number of people coming in, there's a log, digital log. How much of money is paid for energy log, water consumption log, whatever. So the log will be there in the company in a digital form, saying that this diesel generator asset port so and so, we have poured so much of diesel today. That's it. They don't talk about the productivity. Somebody might have matured to capture how much of energy is produced. Very few companies might have moved to say, with this power, so much of work done on the core of because producing electricity is for a purpose. What is the third step? This is maturity 1. Once you put the IT layer with OT, you put a fuel sensor on top of it. With an IoT connection through the internet, you connect a separate data about the same thing. And you connect the energy separately. And then the work done based on the progress monitoring or whatever they do into another data, you are able to correlate whether there is a consistency between what is collected as a log versus the digital data which is collected. Then you put the third layer, which is about that particular equipment. If it consumes so much of fuel, what should be an ideal productivity as per the definition of the market, which is a metadata. You put the layer on top of it to see ideal benchmark productivity or the performance should be like this. What has been collected through the digital is this. What is collected through a manual or a log is this. If there is any inconsistency, it is available real time with the time stamping to the leadership or to the management the way it is. Thereby, they can do right from productivity monitoring, improvement strategy, anything on a leakage they can arrest, integrity issues of people, pilferage, whatever you call it, entire way from right from fundamental data synthesis to forensic is possible today with this kind of integrated approach to technology, integrated approach to a business using technology. Once you see a fundamental data in a discrete way, when I unify it with the relative data, you get a different intelligence into it. But if I got the third layer of a data from 3 different sources along with the relative data, when you see it, you see an unknown becoming known in a very different orbit together. The companies which are able to transparently, culturally move towards that and have that are reaping the benefit very, very happily. And compliance becomes easy because everything is timestamped, everything is with the system of record and the real-time data. There is nothing called as a manual data which is entered. So towards better compliance of the future, this is something which is transformational and happening. And as a country, every aspect of it can be monitored and capitalized through this. In terms of stock, one of the most important topic. We talked about automated ordering, right? You can put a thing, Concord in Amazon kind of a thing, you can order. Then when the material is manufactured and shipped out, you can put the RFIDs and QR codes and things like that, which gives you an advance shipping notice of dispatch. Then it is put on your truck. You have a GPS location tracking, how it is moving. Once the material comes to the site, traditional method is you take a GIN, MRN, and take it into the stock. That is basic system of record. Today, after it gets issued and then it is consumed, there will be an inventory which is left out, which is manually reconciled and punched back into the system as per the traditional auditing process. But today, assuming that you have a sand load of 20 tons, it's a heap of sand. Notionally, people calculate with some fundamental and then put the quantity as a stock. But today you are able to use the technology. For example, using a drone, you can fly a drone on top of it and put a laser boundary on that heap and then calculate mathematically to say what is that volume. Okay, you get the second match. The third one is that you have produced some product with the raw material which has gone into it. And then the product is billed to the client or shipped out of the factory. When you do that, there is a consumption norm for that product. That product should have consumed so much of raw material has come inside, so much of material product has been done, so much should be the balance stock. Now today, with the intelligent automation, 3 different sources of the same stock information. Traditionally, it was only one physical stock verification with the ERP record. But today with the drone kind of examples I said, third one is data which can come from the invoicing of the product. You discrete data points of a same subject, take it out and synthesize in a layer, you get the consistency or inconsistency to say this is going well or not going well. So that is being followed. Most of the people have reached up to stock verification with some technology, but this intelligent automation is happening. So tomorrow, the auditors and the chartered accountants' job of looking at this stock, the way you are going to go about it is going to be very different. And the terms of reference for your compliance checks will go through a complete alteration in the days to come. This is another example of, I get the weighbridge where the measurement of the quantity receipt is done. Accordingly, the invoice is created by the vendor. Invoice is there. The receipt comes from the weighbridge. My order is already there. These three we are able to today easily put into a bot, a robotic process automation, to check three-way whether all the data is consistent. So auto approve that payment processing. So manual checks and all that are avoided. But the data points are also perfect digital play. Where the order is in the auto system. Receipt of the material is clearly with visuals and with the codings and things like that. The invoice is, GST portal invoice. So you are able to put an NLP on top of it with the OCR technique. They're able to validate and move it faster. So the processing centers are able to work efficiently. And there is a sampling protocol which they can establish so that you don't have to check every invoice. You are able to check the sample thing, see it is consistent, so the process is working. It aids the acceleration and error-free processing. This is what I explained in terms of how we are able to do together. And one more piece which is on top of whatever I said is the, I'll come back, where is the bit? Okay. So today, every facility in the world, people are moving towards modeling and rendering. You build a residential apartment, you do a commercial building, you do an airport, you build an aircraft, you build a car, you build anything and everything. There's a rendering, a 3D, 4-dimensionals and things like that. One of the greatest advantage of this modeling, rendering and tools across the world is that you're able to visualize this beautifully. You get the full perspective of what is coming virtually so that you can alter color codes and whatever you want to do. You can do wonders with all this. Also, this gives you what should be the quantity and the effort which is required to translate this virtual thing into physical product, right? So this arguments about the fundamental bottom-up or zero-based costing of anything which you do today is taking a transformation. Today it's going through a transformation where you use the technology to arrive at what is the estimated effort of the job or any product or project or infrastructure, and then keep that as a baseline and be able to measure plan versus actual as you move towards completion. So this is also available if somebody says 30% of that particular work is finished. You know from the model, it shows green for that particular area that 30% is completed. So thereby 30% of that material should have been consumed. What is that inventory says or the issue says, you can calibrate and then put this as a 4-way match to get the sharpness around the inventory and inventory management, right reorder quantities, optimizing the working capital, the entire cycle of efficiency around the capital investment as well as the revenue investment, you are able to control through this. So this is a summary of what I said in terms of model, quantity, RPA, basic ERP systems which are already there. How do you validate? Plus the validation of the provisions which are kept by a lot of people in the GSTs. sorry, for the books, all that comes in, and then you are able to move on. There's, of course, future. People are talking, and distributed ledgers are being used in some of that areas. But this is one of the biggest area of scope or opportunity for every company. And before that, you had to get the fundamental hygiene in place so that the distributed ledger and the transparency and the security systems of network which you deal on the upstream and the downstream of your business. It's a work in progress, but slowly people are moving towards that. Banking has progress, as you know, but other areas, big scope, but we'll have to move cautiously and get there. Smart contracts. So, from all of the things what we have spoken, going back to the pyramid of what we spoke, the data layer has a hygiene on the bottom, irrespective of whatever tools and tackles from where the data is going to come. You need to create proper platforms where all this comes in, all kinds of data, numerical data, text data, vision data, metadata, geospatial data, whatever data people are bringing in, and then take it into a insight layer on the top, which becomes the management tool. And use cases are many. From this perspective, when I relate it to the finance, the way some of the basic health check of an organization is being monitored, whether it is about the stakeholders, your shareholders, or your clients, or internal stakeholders like your employees, or the business, what you do qualitatively, all of this becomes the pillars in the top layer as pivots of focus. And on the bottom, you will ensure every data which is required to do that using the technology and normalizing the data, cleaning up the data happens. And if you are able to put the KPIs on the top and the data on the bottom and use a platform to connect it and build artificial intelligence on top of it, automated intelligence is available to the management for better decision making and running the business more efficiently. On the right hand side, you will see that everything you touch, you have a use case to, use case which can be done. But foundation piece is getting to data and then the compliance around that. And your perspective, the finance people perspective, how do you aid your clients and your stakeholders in terms of looking at clean, synthesized, transparent, multi-calibrated data to be the hygiene of the company, for the future, will take us wherever we are talking about it. And we need not get enamored by the jargons of the technology tools, because at the end of the day, the conceptual framework of applying the domain on the core of the business and setting the tone for it and bringing it into a layer where I can connect to anything and leverage it is the most important piece of the work. And that can be done by only the experts and the domain people who have to put the work. Today, some tool will be there, that will go tomorrow, another open source will come. That's not the problem. You can connect any tool as long as your data and your well is filled with the right ingredients. And application of the tools and tackles is, we need not get enamored by that. That's the way I look at the digital transformation. So at L&T, again, we have created something called as single truth of the data for the business. So we call it as L&TI, wherein on the left, you can see multiple data, visualizations are synthesized into this particular platform. And we monitored probably about 300 KPIs of the business through this particular platform. And we are synchronizing this for, we are training this for consistency. Once that is done, we have already started picking up this for artificial intelligence and machine learning on top of it to get some predictive and prescriptive insights into the business in every area of the business. So that's a culmination. But this is the first step towards bringing it and get the descriptive in order for everybody to see it. And this is a single point of truth. When I say finance performance of a project, whatever appears here is form and final, because it is connected right from the bottom of the work to the platform. And then scope is many from here, wherever we can take it. So just to conclude the last slide, what we talked about it, and I try to give some examples as a non-finance person, but hope you enjoyed it with some insights, some data points for you to munch over it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Sir, do you want to recapitulate what you have taken in another 3-4 minutes?
Sorry?
Do you want to recapitulate for the benefit of participants what you have taken?
Or you want me to recap what I said?
Yeah, just yes, sir.
Okay, so the compliance of any organization is about what they do. It's specific to organization.
I'm so sorry, I had a small technical glitch, sir. I didn't realize I had not unmuted my video, sir. Stop. Please go ahead.
So every organization, every business has got its own diversity of pivots of business to be managed for basic hygiene of the business, all the way up to compliance and governance and stakeholders delight, shareholders delight, and XYZ, client delight and XYZ. So in this journey, anything which people were doing and struggling with the manual works, inconsistent, system of records and things like that, not able to review the performance, not able to see where things are going well, where things are not going well. Today, digital is playing on top of it. However, the fundamental of the business processes and the domain activities are not changed. GST compliance, technically, you need to do the foundational compliance, but how do you use the technology for better sharpness around the compliance is the only thing which we need to get worried about it or focus on. Fundamentals are not going to go away. How sharply you do the fundamentals and how do you use the technology, how do you streamline the fundamentals and start getting a synchronized, clean data of everything which is happening in the company, right from when somebody is entering the company, when he is going out, what he has done. Every footprint of company activities are captured through a proper system of records. For lack of better word, I'm using that. In newer parlance, SR may mean something different, but that you capture, then the scope of digital plays on top of it. What it does is a lot of intelligence tools, artificial intelligence, data visualizations, machine learning, and all that comes in, which you can leverage to improve the business and at the same time transparently course correct, doing the things repeatedly and then getting some intelligence out of it to say this is going well, that's not going well, get some lead indicators, get some transparency around the lead indicators and course correct, improve the performance, go to the next level. I think that is what it is, though people say data is new oil, but to get to data is the biggest piece of the work which we should think about. And once you get to the data, rest is a fly. And we need to do that in a right earnest way. And more so, we need to drive organizations and the country societal framework into a kind of treating this compliance and the governance as a basic hygiene of existence. It is not about doing jugaad and managing and feeling proud about it. So if that becomes a transformational exercise on the cultural part of the ecosystem of where we live, the people's attitude towards adopting this and getting country to the next level becomes, automated, and it becomes a way of life and it's eternal. I think that is what we'll have to thrive. Some of the brightest mind of the country are sitting here. And I think you need to propel that for the future and in the interest of the country and the interest of every, human beings and humanity existing in this great country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. There are
some questions, Sarika?
Ma'am, only one question, whether digital transformation is going to be a reality.
It is happening. You are seeing it. If all of us, most of us who have got a car today, you get an app, right? They give you an app to say so many kilometers you have run, last service has happened, and this fuel level is okay, temperature is going up. Right from that fundamental digital transformation. See, the largest one which we are not covered in this, I take it for granted, the UPI journey of digital transformation in the country. The COVID example, what Shri Priya said, it's all digital transformation. None of us are going to the bank today. It's a digital transformation, right? So you see, if you are doing a business through digital with cybersecurity and all that, what the system of record and all that, emotional issue between two parties of stakeholders talking about this is done, that is not done. I don't know, I didn't withdraw the money and you didn't pay me the money. You go to the ATM and you put 20,000 rupees, even if it is 100 rupee note, you get exact currency coming out, right? It's a starting point of what we are seeing. But we need to be a little careful that we should not get overwhelmed by using the digital in a different way altogether. Still, the foundational pieces of domain expertise must be nurtured in the country. Digital transformation is adopting, like we adopted to mobile. Most of us are not born, after mobile era. I was born before the mobile era, but we have become an adopter. We use a smartphone today. We may use something in the future. So digital transformation comes along with us, with or without we knowing or feeling it, but it is there. And our job is to transform. So auditors should not go back to the foundation of saying, I'll do the audit in the same old way. Let me adopt this and then smartly adopt myself and consult and help my ecosystems to go towards that. Just an example. So all of us have to drive the cultural stuff, but there is enough to leverage and enjoy or experience.
Thank you, sir. In fact, one very interesting thing is, so I was just traveling somewhere and I had to, have some tender coconut water. This was on a highway back of the beyond.
ATM.
Yeah, I mean, and I have a 75-year-old mother who insists on paying our call driver only through GPay. And I was the last in my family to embrace it. So I think what's happening is, I think the general population of the country has embraced digital transformation faster than any other economy. The government has embraced digital transformation and the government is heavily into AI today. So as the corporate segment in this middle, I don't think we really have a choice anymore. So it's the way to go and it's going to be cheaper and it's going to be helping us all.
Slowly you see this, government is beautifully, smartly pushing fundamentals, right? GST, all input, everything is system of record. You take your personal income tax, asset information, annual information system is embedded into Form 26AS and then into the compliance. Nobody can go about. It's just a classic example, Udaan, the platform for a marketplace, and the personal data of Aadhaar and things like that. I think the larger compliance of the country on the fundamental existence of citizen of India is moving much faster than where it should happen. Exactly the point what you're saying. So don't take it as a choice or don't, resist it. Create a tailwind by going with that flow and then seeing the benefit of it. But the future generations have to be prepared. Not just digital or transformation, all the jargons are enough. You need to do the fundamental warming up and all that through the expertise in the core of areas where you are passionate to do something. But adopt this, you are going to be better and you are going to serve better. I think that's going to be the way I look at it.
Sure. So thank you very much, sir. And I think it was very nice. I especially liked the parts on the Sardar Patel statue creation. It was so much to know. I don't think it's got, we knew. And I think in terms of a wrap up, I think you spoke very well on the digital tools of artificial intelligence, machine learning, data sciences, image analytics, intelligent automation, drone surveys, which I'm sure are getting used in, applications such as mining already.
Absolutely.
In fact, given that India Inc. is also moving heavily on the security front after the Taj attacks. I'm sure a lot of these applications.
One more thing which government is doing, maybe some of you are aware of it, the land records across the country is today done by Government of India, and they are ensuring that patta or the legitimacy of a land belongs to somebody is getting systematically established by Government of India across the country. One of the most important transformation post-independence, in my opinion. You know?
Yes, sir. Incidentally, I come from a state which has something called as Tamti and Reginet. And it's incredibly quick. You just have to pull in your survey number, etc., etc. It allows you to search by document, by survey number, by anything, and you get instant results. You get a mail, and then you want it physically delivered, it comes back to you. And I think it's been a huge thing in preventing land scams and land grabs, etc.
Exactly.
It's very nice. And then we also spoke about the Internet of Things, ERP applications. So the whole thing was very nice because it was like, you know, a series of metadata boxes where you can pull in anything from anything else. You also spoke very well on the critical activities, and this was a slide that I particularly liked, and it was very good for us. What is the basic start of your digital journey? Could be on your SOPs, your contract life cycles, which is your procure to pay, or even your order to cash, stock and material management, accounting. Now there are huge changes that are coming. It says every software has to have an audit trail. So if you're going to have everything in your software, you may as well exploit your software to get data to make decisions. Accounting, tax compliances, vendor partner onboarding and management, performance management, payment lifecycle, etc., etc. And this is all data driven, you know, inventory or whatever. But I'm sure there'll be a lot more digitization that happens in the non-data spaces as well. So, for example, is somebody doing a task right? So somebody is expected to clean a hospital every day. Can artificial intelligence capture those images? In fact, very interestingly, we got a ticket from Vahan yesterday. We are yet to understand what the ticket is, but it was a 500 rupee ticket that we had to pay. So I was talking to my spouse and wondering who did it, but I'm sure we must have jumped or slightly crossed the signal somewhere. Yeah, so it's nice, and it's difficult and it's nice. So thank you very, very much, sir, for your
What we spoke today is just 5% of digital, or less than 5%.
Sure, and in fact, today as we speak, there are 100 signatories for the chat GPT. People saying you must go slow on artificial intelligence today. If chat GPT can replace everything. But I think there's also a larger body of people who believe that AI must be allowed to proceed. I've read a few very interesting articles on this. Something that says, why are you stopping this? It's natural process of.
Yeah. But I think, we should not get worried about all that. Human existence has to be there for the balance of ecosystem, number one. Number two, as the nature grows, people will grow, technology will grow, everything will exist in tandem. We'll become more intelligent and more aware and more conscious, but nothing will replace the other one, in my personal opinion, for whatever period we are going to see ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, so I can't understand. So this is also a negative impact of I guess all the digitization. So thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for being here today. And this would be recorded and sent to everybody, all our chartered accountants, about 3 lakh of them. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you, Sarika.
Thank you.